I am what I am, moment by moment. Like everyone else. Tao and E equal mC². From the background of my videos, you may have noticed my fascination with the Tao symbol. As a sentient being I met on the way once said, mine is just an interpretation that has little to do with Taoism and its followers. But, as I mentioned in the first video, people adhere to every human group, follow and or develop a thought for specific and their own more or less conscious and more or less pure and noble motivation. Thus, the thoughts and reflection I say are strictly personal or, as I like to call them, purely subjective. Well, look at the Tao. It is an essential, elegant symbol that holds multiple meanings. The first, that I think is the most important, is the representation of the dimension that we normally live, everyday life, a mixture of rationality and emotional impulses that follow each other in an unrestrained and uncontrollable way. The division between black and white is almost an archetype, let's say cultural, of the dimension I like to call objective. It is the rationality of choosing, approving, denying, in short, judging everything that is part of our perceptive reality. But the white dot in the black part and the black dot in the white part insinuates the doubt of irrationality, of randomness, as if to say it is not certain that everything we have so well chosen, approved, denied, judged, studying details is actually the whole reality, or maybe happens to change suddenly and become its opposite, surprising and displacing us. Also because during our reflection, time passes, situations evolve, and the assumption on which we base our reasoning are perhaps totally different, as if to say, when the balls are still, everything is simple and linear, but distant balls are never still. The Tao represents immersion in daily life in its sinuous and dynamic designs. The two parts are not divided with a clear line, but they seem to move. One insinuates itself into the other, and one transforms into the other. It is the confusion that reigns in every human mind that tries to control its own life, but is overwhelmed by the fortuitous, the unexpected. Plantarei, everything changes second by second, whether we are aware of it or not, whether we act or stay static. Sometimes people, things, ourselves seem good, advantageous, lucky. Sometimes those same people suddenly turn into wicked scoundrels, into dangerous devices, into bricks on our head, or we fall into the blackest depression or into the most carefree euphoria, and without an apparent reason, or better, usually we desperately look for one, but only afterwards and in a consolatory or justifying way. But if we look at the Tao and move away as a spaceship moves away into space, it is like taking ourselves out of this tangled mess in which we are immersed and observing it from the outside, just as an astronaut sees the Earth in its entirety. The common impression of all astronauts is to have the feeling that wars and struggles between people lose their meaning from up there, and how easy it is to relativize them, compare to the grandeur of space, how simple it would be to live in peace and focus only on the knowledge of creation. And if we observe the Tao and meditate on all that it represents, we observe life, our life, reality, our reality. Then we get the feeling that wars and struggles among ourselves or with others lose meaning, and how easy it is to relativize them compared to the grandeur of life, of reality, how simple it would be to live in peace and focus only on the knowing of the creation. Bit of what I do. I live behind the Tao, as you see, to look beyond, or almost, all sacred, mystical and esoteric texts point the way of not acting to overcome the paradox of the duck locked in a jar or other similar ones. How to extract the duck alive without breaking the jar, or how to be aware that black and white are the sides of the same coin, and how to reconcile it with the daily experience of I. But what is I? I as such does not exist. We can prove that there are a myriad of cells and living beings that constitute and inhabit our body, but there is no organic trace of I. I venture in the hypothesis that I is just the name of the pact that our cells have given themselves. Many organized into specialized groups, others are loose and eclectic dogs, and the choices that I takes are just the results of the instances of those cells, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in conflict with each other. But you may ask, what does this have to do with Einstein's formula, E equal mc²? Well, for me, E equal mc² is the contemporary translation of the Tao symbol. Apparently, it does not look like a symbol, and moreover, under the graphical aspect, it is not very good. As a drawing is not comparable to the elegance of the Tao, then a mathematical formula gives more the idea of being rather static and sterile, even repulsive for some people. On closer inspection, however, it also contains in its essentiality several symbolic meanings of contemporary culture. It is a fact that society is increasingly dominated by numbers. By now, the backbone of our entire system is entrusted to what were once called electronic calculators, and we must remember that the databases of our computers are only and exclusively numbers. So a symbol that describes the universe is clearly using our main language, a mathematical formula. As for the beauty of the graphic sign, you have to immerse yourself in this language, and then the elegant essentiality of the formula jumps at you. But why do I say that Einstein's formula describes our reality, or rather, what our technological society is able to express? The first meaning analogous to the Tao is the contrast between one quantity and another with the sign of the equal interposed. I will discuss in another video the relationship between the development of modern thought with that of mathematics and the exaltation of rationality as the only queen to govern our actions. But let's re-immerse ourselves in the formula and hold as an unquestionable postulate the acceptance of mathematical language. The obvious meaning is that matter and energy are the same thing. One is in the other, or rather, they are closely linked by the precise relationship given by the universal constant of the speed of light. Perceived reality is therefore an illusion. Mass is only a form of energy, so to speak, solid, not so solid if you go into the microcosm. we know that the space between one atom and another is much larger than the space occupied by those atoms themselves. And what is more paradoxical than conceiving the equality between a solid and energy, between a static and a dynamic? The formula seems stationary, unarmed, but it contains c², which, as everyone knows, indicates a progression, or better to say, an acceleration in space-time. That is again the meaning of Pantarei. Moreover, the formula is an equation of second degree with a couple of results, one negative and the other one positive, and cancelling each other, a further confirmation that the phenomenal reality is an illusion. But from Einstein's calculations, the resulting formula was E² equal mc², and that is with 4 possible results, 2 by 2 equal. That is, not only energy and matter are interpenetrated, but the negative couple still not studied. I dare say it could mean all that we still ignore, but the scientists say exist, explains some phenomena, both of the vast universe and the microcosm. I don't know if I have convinced you, and anyway, each one walks his own path of knowledge. If you have a more meditative soul, choose the Tao or similar disciplines and solve the paradox of the duck, or immerse yourself in the solution of the equation. But keep in mind that any really important scientific discovery has always stemmed from an intuition, irrational, and then be explained and demonstrated scientifically. Mmm.